fantastic. Some new faces, so that's brilliant. Welcome, everybody. Some more discussion on Slack regarding exchange outreach. I know there's been quite a bit on that, and hopefully we're going to hear some more about that today. So that was fantastic. Wednesday's governance was cancelled. That's fine. We sorted that out. We were up again on Friday, etc., etc. Bounty rewards questions into Slack. I think that seems to be moving forward. I'm sure Rob might have something to talk about on the reward system, but I know I actually so far said that's fantastic. On the face founders one, I actually went through and did it, so that was all fine. And dated next meeting was just today, so we're off and running and ready to go. So I'll hand over to Douglas for our. For anybody who's not familiar, there should be a link to the agenda, or you should have the agenda. I'll just put a link to the agenda in the chat. Everyone should have the agenda. I think I've got the right one. No, that's the wrong one. Sorry. And it's over to Douglas. If you'd like to make a start, Douglas, please, for your heads up on the weekly update. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Hi, everybody. Yeah, this has been quite a week. I'm going to go really quickly through this and leave it to most people to discuss in the working groups. I'd be remiss if I didn't note that we've had some pretty significant rough patches with the testnet this week, and huge hats off to the whole network team. Because we got through those. It was very hard. We got through those. I know that at times people would have thought it might have been just smarter or easier to restart, but we got through them. And what came out of that is a couple of really amazing things. We have a new bootstrap process that Jerry Huff and some others put together, that we're able to really quickly actually cut the time to get a new node up from overnight to like an hour. It's amazing. That's something they don't have on EOS yet. And it's a direct outcome of just the great cooperation that's happening on this team and network. Mark Cohen has put together a manual, which is fantastic, which is part of our new wiki that Jerry originally put together about how to set up a block producer, and it's really top notch. Dimitri at CalEOS has put together Pulse, which is a great monitoring tool. So these are all things that we probably were going to do anyway, but they've been brought forward because of the problems on the test net, and it's been great. Couple quick things. We are adding a couple things to the website. Some stuff we need to move forward with quickly. One is we're going to have probably today or tomorrow a new portal page going up for lost and compromised tokens. That means for anyone on EOS who have their tokens lost, we're setting up a simple process for getting those getting people to be able to change those before we launch. We have a team, a new working group around that, and we brought in several people who have been part of that process before on EOS to be ombudsmen for us and help people through that process. So that's coming up quick, but we really want to try and outreach as many people as possible about that, because we have to make sure we give enough people time to do that. We also have an arbitration page coming up, and that's been up. And so if there are arbitrators who are interested in being arbitrators on our system, it'd be great if they can. Now they have a place to go in and start posting their candidacy. We're not asking arbitrators to have a broad candidacy page like a block producer. It's a high bar for that. We're giving them one place that's much easier. And it's been a huge week in development. I hope they can talk about some of the things they've knocked down. Really big stuff. I'll leave that to them. I'm gonna hand it back over to you, Roger. For now, I'm sorry, Jim. For now, that's where we are this week.
I'm the better looking one, Douglas. Remember that, please. So
you keep saying that.
It was remiss of me. If you could I was trying to speed through. Just please remember to sign in on the bottom of the agenda, the roll call, just to sort of Thank you. So, okay then. So the process is that we whip through the working groups, and arbitration hasn't got anything in there at the moment. I don't know if anybody wants to jump in on arbitration. If there isn't anything there, I'm going to speed us through.
Yeah, that was my mini thing on arbitration.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Douglas. So, bounty system, is it, Rob, you normally take the floor at this point, and I'll be disappointed. So if you can jump in, fantastic.
I'll get it, thank you. This is James Davis at GoodBlock. I just wanted to point out that the Slicing Pie app is up, and people are entering their time, and it seems to be working great. And thanks so much to Rob Konsdorf for working on that. And we are doing continuing work on that. Another thing I wanted to say about the bounty system is that we're having a call for about the commission rates at 17:30 UTC. So we'll be talking about how much value we place on getting new exchanges and dApps and things like that. So if you want to talk about that, which I would encourage, please attend that call if you would. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much for that, James.
I just wanted to add, I've got a laundry list of bug fixes. So thanks to everyone who reported, any problems you found with the app. There's always bound to be some bugs. So I appreciate that. I'm looking to try to get those in ASAP. It's just been hard to find the time. So I also want to make it easier for teams. So there should be some team functionality coming down the pipeline too. So yeah, I'm going to try my best to prioritize that. Might not get done for a couple of weeks, unfortunately, but I'm going to see how much I can do today.
Okay, Rob, thanks for that. Again, a bit of housekeeping. If you come on a call, if you make a contribution, can we just have your name and organisation for the tape, as they say in the TV documentaries? So I will go through now to community rewards. I can't see Mehedincu on the call. Don't know whether James, you want to carry on? That'd be great.
Yeah. I just wanted to point out that the community rewards program is up and running, and it seems to be going great. We have a bunch of people who are on board, and we have some people who are taking it very seriously, and it's really exciting. So I'd just like to encourage everybody to take part in that if possible, spread the word about it, and we will probably also be engaging in some kind of marketing program to promote it. But so I just wanted to say, yeah, it's going great, and let's continue to promote it.
Yeah, I think I'll back that. We've been trying to promote that on our channels as soon as we can, and if you know anybody who gets, at any meetups or anything, then that would be fantastic. Nicole, would you want to speak? If you hit your unmute button, you can speak.
Hi.
Hi.
So I have a question. Thanks, Doug. I found the document too by the block producer. So I just wanted to let all of you guys know that I'm literally starting a program on IGTV for Instagram, and I realize that that's not something that you guys are really into on the social side, but I'm promoting more of after my book. I wrote this book called Smart Women's Guide to Blockchain, so I'm doing Smart Women's Guide to EOS and Telos. And so I'm really giving them an idea of how, yes, I know, right, Doug? So what I'm doing is I'm really trying to get more women understanding the concept of the digital token and the digital asset and how it works with the dApp and what it is, and making it very simplistic. So I do maybe sound bites I'll be doing them every night, and I'll put them on DLive as well, and then maybe make a new Steemit channel for that. But I just wanted to let you guys know that if you have something that hey, Nicole, I have something that you could really use to make this simple. Here's how it works. It's like a 10-step process or something. I can market that. And I want to be able to be in this group a little bit more in helping on the marketing side so that I am able to become a proxy for everybody and help you guys out and then get paid a lot more. So however that can work, yeah, Doug's thumbs up on that one. However that can work, I'm open to, any ideas that anyone has. So Roger and Jim have been extremely nice to me, so especially as a newbie. So I just want to say thanks so much, and thanks for letting me talk.
Okay, Douglas, I'm sure you want to come in on that one.
I do. Nicole, you're so welcome here. Thank you so much. I'm excited. I want to read your book soon when I have a little more time. So we've been talking about. I think this is a really good opportunity for us to say really quickly. This has been we've been talking about this here in small groups. How much we want to be more representative across the board, but particularly, 51% of the world's population is very underrepresented here in our blockchain sausage fest, and we want to improve that. And so to any women who want to find leadership roles in DPoS chains, we are here. We want you, and we want everybody, but we want to be more representative. And I'm really glad, Nicole, you're here, and please keep doing that outreach for us. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to be able to do what Adriana's doing for Cypherglass in that way of going and representing everybody, but I don't want to just represent one. I want them to understand the concept of all of the block producers that are doing, not just independent, like Jim has told me, make it narrow, but more of, I'm not on Amazon, or I'm not on Google. I'm not using their cloud. I'm, separate from that. So really keeping that integrity and allowing you guys to, guide me into what you're doing so that I'm able to represent in a way that gives you guys a solid foundation for social, because this is so, people, confused minds don't make themselves up, right? So that's really where I want to be.
Okay. So thanks, Nicole. It's fantastic. And it's great to see you on the call. You're more than welcome. I'm sure that CJ and Beth will welcome you onto their channels, because we've got quite a lot going on in those channels as well. And the more women we see on the calls, the better, as far as we're all concerned. So that's fantastic. I've lost where I am now after all that. Where did we get to? Community rewards, step outreach, development. I haven't got anything from Peter written down, but I'm guessing that someone's going to have a basket development, or are we going to wait for that?
Yeah, it's been a huge week on development. Would we? I don't know why Peter's not here. Could we just push that to the end and come back to it?
I am here. I am here.
Oh, robot voice, go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Peter, we can just hear you. Carry on.
Am I still a robot?
Ish.
Oh, well, I'll try, and then if it's too unintelligible, you just let me know.
I will. You're okay. You're good to go.
So this last week, we've made a lot of progress. Craig Branscombe finished a first draft of Ratify Amend, and so that will be ready to push out on a chain as soon as we have merged all of the pull requests and made a new version tag on master. That would also include changes to missed blocks and the ability to remove producers that have been missing blocks for a certain period of time. We've also merged in most of the unit tests, thanks to John from Telos Voyager and Modelin from Amplify Telos. And so those have also been merged into the repository, so we should see working unit tests coming through on this newer version. And then we also merged in upstream changes from block 1 for version 1.2.5, which should fix some of the memory leaks that we've been experiencing on the testnet over the last couple of weeks. That's basically it. Okay. But that tag should be available soon. So we're finishing up our merges today, and then we'll have there should be something visible for you guys here this afternoon.
Okay, Peter, thanks a lot. That's fantastic. I'm going to move on unless Douglas starts waving at me. You happy? No, he's giving me a shrug. So
I'm fine. I think that's totally underselling the fact that they merged an incredible amount of stuff, but I'll let it pass.
Yeah, well, we're from the development guys, and when Jerry's on, we sort of like just amplify everything 3 times in my ears. That's what I do. So it's sort of it's a default position that I'm working on. So I'm quite happy about that. I think the
Lord is sweet.
Here he is. That's fantastic. Straight to the point. That's what we like. So I'm going to jump on now to exchange outreach with Beth and Roger, if you'd like to crack on.
Sure, great. Well, more good news here. Things are really moving on, and so we're very excited to announce the first exchange that's agreed to list Telos. Yay! So that's EOS. So well done to Josep, EOS Barcelona. I know you didn't really want your name next to that, but you've done a lot of work on it, so you need to be recognised for that. So they're going to list Telos EOS pair. And tests will be done with the Telos testnet and the Jungle testnet, so that they can get that working. So anyone trading Telos there on the EOS mainnet, EOS will be able to withdraw Telos into their Telos mainnet accounts when it goes live. So what a fantastic development! I think you'll all agree that's a really huge milestone.
It just got real.
That's fantastic. So, do you want to come any more on that, anybody, or are we happy? Again, I think Joseph needs a big shout up, and Nicole's coming in. Okay.
Can I ask you a question, Joseph? Can you give the how-tos? Like, if I were to explain, the moving Telos into my mainnet, right? How would I do it? Is there a doc? So that I can look at this. Anything that can help me explain it to the layman is going to be helpful for everybody. So I just love to be able to.
Not yet, because it's all just so new, isn't it? But that'll be coming, Nicole. Yeah, definitely. Lots of videos to be done there.
But you have an aura around you, Roger. It's like you're glowing.
It's he's like that even when he's not on virtual background. Anything like that. If you want to. If you mention things like that in the chat, then people in the particular groups, if you ask people for stuff, they'll give it you. And also, if you jump on the weekly calls for the individual groups, then they'll be able to direct stuff to you with the things that you need. So I think that's fantastic. Adam, are you back from the kitchen? Yeah. So governance, do you want to crack on?
Yeah, so we had kind of a slow week last week, and that was partly my fault. I was in Kentucky at Bourbon Festival, so we had already canceled Wednesday, and then I was at the mercy of the people that I was with Friday and couldn't make it to lead that meeting. But we're back on track this week. We finished up the latter part of the network operating agreement, so kind of all those clauses at the end, and thanks Douglas for kind of finishing those up because we ran out of time. I think the plan for the rest of this week is tomorrow on Wednesday we're going to be reviewing the Reg Arbitrator contract, and then on Friday I think we will probably revisit the operating agreement, because we did skip over that arbitration section, or we started to clean it up, but then slowly realized that we're like, oh well, we don't actually know what this is really going to look like yet, so we have to go back and revisit that. But that being said, actually the network operating agreement will probably go through just one kind of lightning round of, is everything defined that we think we need to have defined, fixed grammar, that sort of thing. And then I think we can release a new version of the network operating agreement, first to you guys for a few days, and then to the general public after that. But we want to do it quickly, so to get as much feedback as possible.
Yeah, and if I can add in there, there's numbers in many places. There's numbers that we need. Now, is this 3 months? Is it 6 months? Is this 5%? Those are things that we did only a light amount of discussion about, because we feel those are things that we ultimately have to discuss in the group here, and then the general community needs to discuss those. Right. So we're building really strong frameworks, but the actual granular details may almost certainly need some discussion within our group. So once we get those out there, I would encourage everybody in our group and everybody, outside the group who is interested in this to get on those things, because again, our principle is there's no perfect documents. And we're just trying to make them better, and the more eyes, make it is that process. That's the more eyes on it, the better. So please read them once they come out.
Okay, thank you for that, Douglas. So it seems to be onto my. I just put an idea in here, which was to on the meeting section, is that next week I'm going to work on changing this agenda. We've had this format for 4 or 5 weeks now, and I think we're going to move to having one, like I said, that we're going to have one standing item next week, which is going to be the launch page, because we're getting down to the stage where we need to be deciding on the red, amber, greens, etc., etc. So I'll have a play around with the agenda. So have a look out for that. And if you think I've done it right, then thanks. If you think I've done it wrong, then let me know and I'll change it. So look out for that over the next few days, and it'll be a different agenda coming into next week. That was my bit on that. Network maintenance. Jerry, do you want to pop in on this?
Sure. Okay. Well, thanks to Mark from Vancouver, we have a wonderful how to install a block reducer guide up on the wiki. We had a few problems over the testnet the last few days, but it's up and solid now with 21 producers. There's a new block producer contract form in the agenda. And also, Dimitri from Infinity Block has a pulse monitor that's in beta, but really would like to get people's feedback and get it up and working. And lastly, JT has a bootstrap, and he's got bootstrap.bigiron.io up for people who need to get a backup. He has the last 4 hours up on a web page that you can just download, and that's it.
Can I?
Yes. Yeah. Go on, Douglas.
Yeah, just wanted to add. So these things are huge. I wanted to mention these are also things that are all going to carry with. These are solutions that are not temporary fixes for the testnet. These are solutions that are going to carry through into the mainnet. And most likely right now we have one Bootstrap server, but my hope is that BPs will find different ways to sort of reach level 6 on Azad's scale. And like I would propose that one of those would be not just to be an API server, but to be a Bootstrap server, so that we keep that a decentralized process and keep the cooperation, competition, continuum well towards cooperation, but not so much that it's becoming centralized or locking anyone out. But it's amazing things that network guys have come out with from a very, very tough week. So those guys, buy them all a beer next time you see them.
Thanks for that, Douglas. Yeah, it's brilliant what we're achieving. So that's great. Apologies, Beth. I need to drop back to your external comms. Do you want to? You've got some things on there. Do you want to have a pop at those, please?
Sure. Just the usual kind of weekly reminders. We've got lots of great weekly wins that are happening in some of the groups. So we'd love to still be able to share those, some big milestones. I believe at some point Mark had suggested that it'd be easier just if you wanted to just send to him directly. He could wrap them up the way his team has. That has been so awesome. Mark, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want to throw you another task. But there's lots of great things happening, and we want to be able to kind of make sure that it's getting shared in all of our different kind of social media and community channels, because people want to know what's going on. And then I've seen a lot of chatter within the Slack channels about things that are kind of external communication type of topics that are kind of popping up in marketing or the general channel. It'd be better if we could make sure those get consolidated to the external communications channel, so that that team that's kind of focused on the big picture PR messaging can kind of better address them. And I'm worried about them getting lost in other bigger channels, like general channels. And if anybody's not sure about that, feel free to message me directly on Slack, and I can kind of explain the use of that channel better.
Okay,
that's all. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for that. That's fantastic. I'm going to have to jump off now, so I'm going to hand over to Adam, and he's just going to take us through the rest of the meeting. So see you later, guys. Cheers.
See you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim. Cheers, mate.
See you, Jim.
Cheers.
All right. So we were at weekly wins, right? I'm just trying to get the agenda to the right
So
spot.
I think we're down to onboarding.
Okay, onboarding. All right, cool.
I can hop in there.
Yep.
So Mark from Telos Vancouver. A couple of exciting things this week. We've got 5 new members and 2 more coming on board. So lots of very confident folks who are excited to join the Telos launch group. So that's been great. And the onboarding form is getting very busy. So we're getting more and more interest. So great news.
Cool. So I think.
Sorry, could I just ask a question there, Mark? The onboarding form. Sorry to interrupt. Took me a while to find my unmute button. Is it okay to just send anybody to that form that expressed an interest in being involved, or is there another process that goes before that?
No, that is the first step. Please direct everybody and anybody to that form.
Brilliant. Okay, thanks for clearing that up.
If another quick question about that, are we still doing like sort of a web of trust when we get people who we know from other places, for example, other block producers and whatnot coming in? Or do we want to funnel everyone through that same process? Or if there are people we know well enough, do we just bring them in?
Oh, yeah, we certainly are bringing in folks that we have pre-existing relationships with and have already established trust with. There's no sense to funnel them through onboarding.
Okay, that's what I thought. I didn't want to short circuit the process now that it's running so well. Thanks.
Okay. Looks like we can move on here. So we'll pass it off to Assad to talk about security and GRC. If he's on. Assad, are you on?
I don't believe he's here.
Okay.
He is here. I can see him, but there wasn't anything under that point on the agenda, so I don't know.
Maybe I can quickly talk if he's not listening. Okay, I mean, we have created this the minimum block producer requirements. You have seen that, and the last week we were supposed to focus more on the privacy aspects and the GDPR. There has not yet been done a big progress in that area because I was mainly busy with getting back the node up and running. Spent 2.5 days because the node was crashing during the weekend. So, but we will be, I think, spending more time on the privacy aspects and how to tackle GDPR in the future. Yep. So that was all from security and GRC.
Thank you.
I had trouble with the microphone, so that would be my update. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Ed. So I'll pass it off to CJ Anders or Sean. I think CJ was writing some notes under his agenda item.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Oh, her agenda item. I apologize. I don't see everybody's face sometimes, so.
It's okay. So I just wanted to say we've been gathering the new content that's been produced and existing content to update the electronic press kit. And it looks like we have all the content we need, and now it's just a matter of revising and updating the electronic press kit, the marketing deck, and the general intro decks that we've completed to ensure that all are on brand and ready to distribute soon. That's all I have.
Cool. Awesome. So Douglas and Beth, do you want to talk about the Telos Foundation real quick?
Not really. No. Not much has happened with the Telos Foundation. A lot of other progress was at the expense of that this week. I would say the one thing I would say though is, like I said last week, we are going to have to set up some kind of board for that. We want people, naturally a lot of those people are likely to come from within this group, but I think we should also be looking for people and brainstorming about people outside this group who either because they're not engaged with Telos itself, it could be people in the EOCO world, it could be people in the business or government world, it could be in a lot of people. I think it would be great to have a broad board that doesn't completely look like one of these phone calls. But so let's just keep thinking about that, and that is all.
All right.
Does that mean you have to wear shirts and ties, Douglas, to not look like one of these phone calls?
Well, like these phone calls, pants are not required.
Cool. So next up is translation.
This is Joost from Cotovanu. Do you hear me?
Yep.
Good. It has been a bit slow on translations for the last weeks. So we'll try to poke people a little bit more. And for the white paper, we need a Korean and an Italian translator. So if anyone knows Korean or Italian translators,
GoodBlock has a Korean translator. I think he's. Oh, go ahead, Beth.
We do have a Korean translator that's completed the white paper. I'm just trying to get the updated white paper from him, which should be done any day now. I think we just need additional Korean translators to help him out with all of the other documents. That's all.
Thanks, Beth.
And then,
so we hope to speed up things a little bit with the translations.
Great. And then I think the last work group, if we're good to move on, is the RAM group, and that's Douglas again.
Again, not a lot of. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
With regards to translations, do we have a list of the languages that we are translating and the list of the languages we'd like to translate?
We do have a list, although as far as I'm aware, it's not updated at this moment. So I will update it the coming days.
That sounds like a great community rewards option if we got that list out there saying looking for, translators in these languages.
Right. Largely, I think it's Japanese that we're missing and possibly German.
We do have a German speaking.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah. Then Japanese.
Japanese and Italian.
And Italian.
Okay, and then I think I heard that Douglas said that there is not much update on the RAM group, and we're okay to skip that for this week,
yeah,
correct?
Please.
Okay, and next point, there's a link about the launch requirements in the bottom of the agenda. This is a standing item, so I don't know if we need to go over this necessarily this week. And then finally, Rob had an Investing with a Difference proxy interview yesterday with Rahman, who runs that proxy, and I think he has some feedback to share from that call, because it was actually pretty I watched it this morning. It was pretty heavy into asking about Telos and what we were up to and why it was important. So Rob, I'll let you take it away.
Sure, yeah. So not to reiterate the call, as everyone can watch that on their own time if they choose. But off the call, Rahman and I had some discussion about Telos, and I wanted to bring back his feedback just as something the group can chew on. So he really thinks that people are confused about forks like Telos, and they're already trained by the industry to think forking is bad. And so we really have to work against that. One of his pieces of feedback was, try not to, and we don't have to take this, but I think it's good feedback. That's why I want to share it. We shouldn't try to necessarily put the mainnet and Telos at polarizing ends when we talk about it. We can talk about Telos as being different and doing things different, and some of us may subjectively think those things are better, but if we're trying to win the hearts and minds of people who are trained to think what we're doing is bad, then we can have a little more tact about how we publicly talk about Telos and compare it to the mainnet. And in general, the confusion, one of the things that he offered us was to have Telos highlighted at his event on November 12th. After the SF Hackathon, he's having a Dev EOS event. The details are forthcoming, so we can use this as an opportunity to actually have people from Telos there talking about Telos, teaching devs how to deploy DApps on Telos and so on, and showing that in general, this is building value. So just some things to think about. You know, in general, people are confused about Telos and what it is and why. And, you know, perhaps when we talk about it, you know, we could be a little bit more tactful about the mainnet and not necessarily painting them as polarized. So just some feedback. And yeah, I just wanted to bring it back. So that's all I had. And yeah, I think we should discuss, you know, being at this event and trying to provide clarity to people who are confused about why Telos or why forking is okay, and our sister chains, as we've been calling them. So just some things to think about.
One thing is not to reference it as the mainnet, just the EOS chain, because we're going to have our mainnet.
True. That's a good point. Yeah,
so,
it is just.
So it's the EOS chain. This is the Telos chain.
Yeah, I also think that we should get away from EOS as much as possible. And also, I noticed that there's another, a fork, Warbly, and they are also trying to be distant from EOS. So, providing features that EOS is not providing. So I think we should not use the word fork. Maybe like Jerry said, we should have our own identity, separate.
Yeah, totally agreed, Syed. Those are both very good points. I'll try to stop saying mainnet myself, because I do have that habit. Yeah, and you know, we're building something really awesome and valuable here, and we don't need to be little broed by the EOS mainnet. So yeah, we can totally have our own identity and not be in the shadow of the mainnet per se. But that's also like, we want people from the mainnet to support us, because there's already a huge core of people supporting this technology. So just trying to bake in some tact there as well, so we can kind of win their hearts and minds, I think would be helpful.
Cool. I love the way you managed to say mainnet at least 4 times after you said you're going to stop using it there.
Yeah.
It's the EOS blockchain and it's the Telos blockchain. Is that what we're going with?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think there was a time when we first emerged that old nomenclature made a lot of sense. But I think this is probably more clear. But things take time. We all have to take time. And I think those are some great feedback. I will take it personally. CJ, you've got some.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I'm sorry, I'm cold, so I have a hood on, but I just wanted to say that all of those comments and thoughts are already incorporated into the marketing deck. So I think when that comes out later this week, you guys, it'll be distributed in Slack, and then our press kit also will be publicly distributed. Will kind of help everybody with language and kind of terminology to how to talk about Telos in the best way. So
awesome. That's great, CJ. Thanks for doing that. Looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah. I was gonna say too, there's been some discussion in the governance telegram for EOS, and there's some discussion at Telos as well. And I went in there and I said, it's like, look, I can't it's not like we can stop mainnet from taking anything that we do on Telos for the most part, right? I would be surprised if they didn't adopt at least a few of our clauses down the line, because I think we're doing good stuff, and I think that just makes Telos look better too.
Well, and I hope they do, right?
Yeah.
Everything we do is open source, right? So if we think these are good ideas about governance, and why would we include them otherwise, then they're almost certainly equally as good for EOS.
Right.
and there's some things we're actually going to be out ahead on, and I think that's fine. You know, like we encourage them to take whatever helps them, right? Just as we have received, you know, been beneficiaries of a lot of good things from EOS. We've learned so much. Most of the advances we're making are things that we would never have known if we hadn't, you know, been part of the EOS launch and carefully watching what's happening on EOS. So it's definitely a two-way street.
Yep, and I mean, I've taken tons of feedback from those EOS Alliance calls, and we've incorporated more than a few things that, you know, I expect them to adopt, just because they're not going to actually be able to write it and propose the different constitution in time, probably anyways. So
we are, you know, inextricably intertwined, right? We're members of the same family, and we're essentially dependent on each other. We might be more dependent on EOSIO now, but maybe things will change as they start to borrow some of the innovations that we build into Telos. So let's frame this in a way that we are brothers and sisters. We're part of this EOSIO family.
Yeah, I think we should use the word EOSIO, not the EOS mainnet. EOSIO is I think, better. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You've got the EOSIO code base, from which you've got EOS one side, Telos, and then whatever else follows from that as well.
Yeah, yeah, we've been using EOSIO or mostly, and lately I think we're getting people starting to talk about EOS Telos as if it's just like kind of one unit, because there's so much crossover. So I think either one of those are good way, and also EOS family, all those are good ways to speak about this.
How about a hierarchical family tree showing all the children of EOSIO?
We'll get Josh on that immediately.
I think Nicole's dying to say something. Unmute yourself, Nicole. Go on.
I just have one question for you guys. So all of you are kind of like way up here in all of this, and like when I have to go and explain it to people that like me, who are like, what is this, right? So if I put into a group, you know, does anybody know about blockchain? I get up maybe like 3 people that have heard about it. So my goal is more to say, okay, this is how this works. So I'm going to kind of dumb this down for a second, and it's going to bore you guys, but I want to ask you, when I talk about the EOSIO and Telos, what was the actual point of Telos forking off of EOS? Was it a distribution model, or was it something that was not working with EOSIO that we needed to change?
So
I'll let Douglas take this.
Okay. Thanks, Rob. So I'm sure we all have our own approaches to our own opinions about that. I would say the largest thing of all is that in EOS, because of the way the tokens are distributed, 99.3% of all the users do not have a meaningful voice, right? So there's a lot of people who are passionate about it, but because DPoS is based on voting, their votes don't technically matter in the way they should. And so the main goal there was to give everyone a voice and everyone a vote, because we believe that somebody who has 1,000 EOS cares just as passionately about the system as somebody who has 1 million, and maybe even more in some cases. So we want to be very inclusive. That's the main thing. And then there were we saw opportunities for some network, some security technical improvements, like you'll see with testing our standby BPs. And then once we start, then we found additional areas where we could be just more transparent and open and inclusive, for example, electing arbitrators. So those are the main ones. Rob, I bet you have some stuff to add.
I just wanted to make a quick point of clarification. That was a great summary. Telos didn't fork EOS. It forked EOSIO. And that's really important, because a lot of block producers that are part of Telos actually made a pledge not to fork EOS. Including EOS Detroit. However, the way, so let me try to just quickly summarize this, Nicole. So Block 1 released EOS IO code. People in the mainnet took that code and made the mainnet, and GoodBlock and people part of the Telos launch are also taking that EOS IO code and launching Telos. So it's really an important but subtle distinction that we didn't actually fork Telos, or we didn't fork EOS, we forked EOS IO, which is a reference implementation.
Yeah, that's very
offline if you need more clarity, Nicole.
Yep. And real quick before we wrap up here, does everybody have access to the raised hand feature, or is that something that I need to enable? Because I realize that it's tough to for me to see when people have stuff to say, anyways.
It's there for everybody, Adam, but I don't think and many people use it really. It's down along the bottom somewhere. We've never really had much luck with people trying to get people to use it on other calls, but yeah.
I can't even find it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a UI fail.
Yeah, I also can't find it. Yeah.
Jeez.
Plus, it's never going to be as easy as just doing this.
True. Very true. All right, guys. I think we are good to wrap up, I believe, unless there's anything else extremely pressing. Thanks for coming, and we'll put Jim back in the seat next week.
So next meeting.
So before we close, we usually just firm up that the next week, same time.
Oh, yep, same time at 1600 UTC.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
Don't forget to check your time.
Yeah. Fill in your time sheets, everyone. Cheers for now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Phone call in 40 minutes if anybody's interested.